yesterday over on BirdSite, I posted this thing where I pointed out that, like, in 1971, if you worked full time at a burger joint making the minimum wage, the rough equivalent today would be about $10,000 a week. And of course, everybody has had a complete meltdown. They're still melting down. It's pretty wild reading the amount of cope down below all of this. And it's like, as with most people, you're already probably trying to type something with your thumbs rapidly about this. Like, oh, that's absurd. CPI, blah, blah, blah. First of all, CPIs are fake numbers. CPI is a bunch of numbers made up by people that are counterfeiting all the dollars to worthlessness and telling you they're still worth something. See, here's why. Let's make up a whole bunch of reasons why the dollar still has some kind of value by creating the consumer price index. That's complete crap. Okay, that's complete crap. That's just made up, and they pick the basket. They do whatever they want with that and massage the numbers to come up with whatever they want. In the meantime, every American, I think, pretty much knows this, that if we use the so-called Big Mac analogy, how many of you realize that the Big Mac that you would have bought in 1977 is nowhere near the quality? Not even close. It's not the same size, not the same quality. It's not even the same product. It may or may not be some form of meat, right? I mean, like, this is the reality, and everybody knows this, that the product quality of just about everything is becoming garbage, right? And the prices are going up, the product quality is going down, and they're saying, see, look, the inflation's in check, and it's only 3%. No, it's much higher than 3%. Significantly higher than 3%. You have only to look at the gold standard with that. Like, oh, but gold is, no. That's not how a gold standard works. It's a fixed unit of monetary measurement. That's why gold was chosen thousands of years ago. That's why. It's for this very reason. In other words, all of these people out there that are trying to figure out why it is you can't afford to buy anything, and that why it is that you're trying to find work someplace and the money you're being paid doesn't really buy you anything, this has been discussed for thousands of years. This is not new. None of this is new to me. And it's not new to people who study this stuff and who spend their time looking at this. And like, no, this is not a new thing. That's the currency, the dollar in this case, dying. It has no intrinsic or mathematical value at all. And certainly not since 1971. August of 1971, when Nixon removed us from the gold standard, that ended any pretext of any kind of unit of measurement. It's just worth whatever they claim it's worth. And even Ben Bernanke himself said a dollar is what a dollar will buy. That's a very slick answer to give, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of how they see it. Like, okay, well, we can change this and change that, and we can make it a little easier for people, so therefore we don't really actually pay people for their work, because if we had to pay them for their finite amount of time on this planet, their finite amount of labor, with something else that's finite, we would all go broke very quickly. Yes, you would. The people who do all of the actual work, there's that word that nobody likes, would make all the money. Okay? Until they were tired of working, and then they would go do other stuff. They would go spend their money, right? They would save their money, and then they would go and spend it later on. That's the whole point of a monetary system, as opposed to just barter, because I don't have any need for 600 pounds of berries that are going to spoil unless I'm in the berry selling business. I don't have need for 600 chickens and 5 oxen. Okay, I don't have any need for that. So therefore we have to have something that's going to be, that can stick around for a while. It isn't going to fade. It isn't going to go bad. I'm not being paid in ice cubes that are going to melt, or that I have to keep them frozen by using electricity. Like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so, yeah, so because your currency is losing all its value, there's this huge amount of cope. Denial is the most predictable piece of human behavior. It's the most predictable thing. Of all human behaviors, denial is the most predictable. Whenever people are faced with something that they don't fully understand, they immediately say, well, it's not that. It couldn't possibly be that. Just like how many people out there, how many of you out there now, all right, I mean, just if you make it this far in the video, statistically most people don't, but let's say you make it this far in the video, how many of you out there believe any of the crap that the government's telling you? The same people that covered up the island people. I guess that's how we have to say it here now. So yeah, like, you believe anything these people say? And if you do, why? Explain to me how you have any belief or any faith in anything they say. So why would you believe CPI? Why would you believe any of these other things? Yeah, so this ultimately is the problem. It's like, well, but it can't be that bad. These people can't be that unscrupulous. Yes, they are. People do a lot of really, especially when it comes to money. People are weird, dude. Like I saw somebody point this out, that money problems have broken up more bands than creative differences have ever done it. Creative differences, drugs, alcohol, doesn't matter. Money has broken up a lot of bands. Yeah, because that's how, like, people are strange when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons why you ideally want to run a cash business. Cash just simply means no debt. That's all that means. It doesn't mean paper dollars. It means no debt. No. If you come into my store and you want to buy something from me, and I say, oh, look, it's, I don't know, quarter ounce of gold. Let's use that as an example. That's how much this is. It's a quarter ounce of gold. Give me a quarter ounce of gold. You give me the gold coin. I give you the item. You're out the door. That's the end of it. That transaction is concluded. There's no other, like, I got to chase you around for money. You have to chase me around for money. Like, there's none of that. There's none of that. Cash businesses are the best. They just are. Now, not every industry can run on a cash basis. You still have to, sometimes you have to run on net 30 and net 60 and so, like, I understand that to a point, but just keep in mind that that's not the same thing as having long-term extended debt that you're going to pass on to your heirs, apparently, as is the case with the so-called national debt, where a bunch of Gen Xers, which is not a very big generation of people, a ton of millennials, and pretty much all of Gen Z are going to be expected to shoulder the burden of trillions of dollars of debt that they didn't benefit from. That's the truth. They didn't, like, the vast majority of anybody basically under the age of 60 did not really benefit from all of that ridiculous amount of spending, like the absurd amount of spending. We just couldn't possibly cut any spending, could we? I saw, what's his name in New York saying, oh, how do we deal with this $10 billion deficit that we have? Quick, we need to tax the rich people. Why don't you cut spending? Have you considered that? Have you considered maybe just drawing back on the crap you're buying? Well, we couldn't possibly have that happen. Yeah, so I don't know what to tell you there when it comes to something like that. All of that said, yeah, so when I point out that your currency has been destroyed, that is not up for debate. That is the math. The math doesn't lie. Gold, according at the time, was about, I don't know, $5,500 or so per ounce, which is insane to me. That's a crazy number. As someone who was used to seeing gold, cover around $850 to $1,200 for the longest time, that's insane. Not unpredictable, but it's pretty wild to actually see it happen, and it tells you that the currency is basically dying. That's really what it tells you. So central banks have to buy gold. Okay. Well, at $5,500, if you take the math, which is 1.83 ounces of gold, which is what you would have earned in 1971 at the minimum wage, at a burger restaurant, at a gas station, doing a job that there is an actual market for, or for which there's an actual market. How do you say that? Anyway, if you were doing that, and you were getting the minimum wage, that was the equivalent of 1.83 ounces of gold, that would be about $10,000 per week today. That's how badly your currency has been destroyed. But must CPI? No, I'm not. I reject the entire premise of CPI because it isn't a standardized unit of measurement. You need to have something by which you can measure it. Imagine if you said, hey, I want to build a house, and all of your subcontractors showed up with different units of measurement to build a house. It would be a disaster. One of them is measuring things in cubits. The other one is measuring them in yards. The other in metric system. Like, dude, what the hell? I mean, like, people would go, this is insane. Well, how many hands tall is that wall? I don't know, 32? This is ridiculous. So no, you're just going to have some kind of standardized unit of measurement, and for thousands of years that was chosen as gold. Now, is there a better solution today that it is electronic? Yes, there is. Digital, there is. And it's an even harder currency, but people aren't ready for that yet. I recognize that. Most people aren't. Just learn gold first, then we'll branch out into other stuff.